Ladies and gentlemen, the Christmas manga break is almost over. We've got new chapters of Ichi the Witch, Sakamoto Days, JJK Modulo, and more important for me, Kagurabachi coming out tomorrow. I am very excited. Before it happens, though, I wanted to share a little theory that I came up with, and I don't know, kind of break it down a bit. For over 100 chapters, the Swordmaster has been built up, and he is not disappointed in the slightest. I mean, this performance that he's pulling up, it's pretty fucking bad. However, the thing I find most interesting about him is that he seems to be completely in control of his thoughts, his actions. Like, he doesn't seem insane in the slightest, which, I mean, I'm going to be entirely honest, the complete opposite of what I expected when I saw this panel. Like, holy shit, that man looks like a demon. However, given that, it kind of gave a little bit more weight to the theory that I've been coming up with for some time, and I think it would explain his actions and how he got the Shinichi to begin with, and kind of explain how it happened. And I think that is that the enchanted blades don't just amplify the strength and the abilities of the user, but it also amplifies their emotions and their beliefs, etc. So to prove this, or I guess to examine this, because I can't really prove it, there's no evidence other than speculation. So to examine this, I'd like to take a look at all of the enchanted blade users, and then go through kind of what makes me think, what points of their character I think are amplified by the emotions, and then I'll get to like the biggest reason at the end and the top three reasons why, or I guess the top three characters that represent it. Now, I'd like to start off with Uruha and Misaka. Looking at Uruha in his first appearance, we can see that he idolized Kunishige like a fuck ton. He went as far as completely losing his will to live when he found out that he died, and he kind of stayed in that state for 3 years, which is interesting to me because it's kind of a similar situation with Misaka, who got like insanely out of shape after the war, losing all of his skills, which is in sharp contrast to his brother, who spent that time training and getting even stronger. In both of these cases, the Enchanted Blade user fell into their own kind of depression, with Uruha losing his own will to live, and in Hokuto's words, Misaka lost his fangs. Looking at Samura, though, when we first meet Samura, he went as like far as blinding himself over the events of the war, and when he's taking care of Iori, we can clearly see that there's a point where he's scared to open the door because he's thinking of the possibility of her hanging herself. He goes as far as pushing her away, telling the Masumi to steal her memories right after seeing again for the first time in a long time. And all in all, it seems like his most negative thoughts are present at all times. He's like worrying about his daughter, and then when he reunites with his daughter, he's immediately like, okay, this isn't working out, I gotta get rid of her. It just feels that way. Chihiro, on the other hand, the main character, we couldn't not touch on him. The first instance that did come to my mind when I was thinking of this theory was actually a line that got clowned on a lot at the beginning of Kagurabachi's initial serialization. Why am I saying initial serialization? That doesn't sound right. Sorry, I'm kind of like going off not very much right now. I'm trying to get this out ASAP. Look, the line is the "I start the morning with fresh hatred" line, which, again, as edgy as the line is, I actually think it does help with my argument a bit. His feelings of hate are being amplified by the blade itself. And every time Chihiro gets better with the enchanted blade, so like every time I guess he's quote-unquote leveled up, his beliefs are seemingly strengthened as well. Now that could just be like a typical shonen thing, and there are a couple more instances through the series, but it seems that every time the enchanted blade is drawn and he's using it, his emotions are at an all-time high. He seems calm and collected before it, and then everything explodes. It's probably just a shonen thing with Chihiro, to be honest, but the next one is actually one that I like a lot, and it supports it probably the most, and that's Sojo. I know, we're going back to the first arc, the Sojo glaze is coming in. I'm sorry, okay? He's a good first antagonist. But we know that Sojo idealized Kunishige and the Enchanted Blades. He developed a viewpoint that like only he understood Kunishige and the purpose of the swords. And his viewpoint was that they were meant only for death and carnage. They're the ultimate killing machines. And he was literally outright bored when Chihiro said he wanted to use them to protect people. And like he literally said it himself, that Chihiro was unworthy to wield the blades without knowing that he was his son. But after learning that Chihiro is Kunishige's son, his like belief in his own understanding in the blades is kind of shaken a bit. But then after defeating the anti-Cloud Gauger squad, it's reinforced, and he comes away with like, yeah, my belief is valid, but it does have the caveat that he also accepts Chihiro's own viewpoint. In my eyes, this is kind of similar to Chihiro, where his emotions and his beliefs are strengthened when he uses the blade in battle. And I also think it supports it because his ideology should have crumbled under the pressure of being put at opposite ends with Chihiro, the son of the man that he thinks he understands, that he idolized. But it didn't crumble. It was reinforced immediately after deepening his connection with the sword itself. And now we reach, I guess, kind of the end of the evidence I've provided for this theory, and that is Kunishige himself. I guess to be more specific, it's more of a look at Kunishige and the Swordmaster. We know that they were brothers-in-law due to the last chapter, and we also know that they were fairly close thanks to the way that the Swordmaster describes Kunishige. And, Kunishige was a silly guy, but despite that silliness, he was still shown to be intelligent. He was shown to be aware. He knew the enchanted blades were stronger than normal sorcery, and even before he knew that the malediction was possible, I don't see him entrusting any of those swords to someone with an ideology as destructive as the Swordmaster has, and I also don't see the Swordmaster being able to conceal it from him, given how close it seems that they were. I think that the Shinichi, being the most powerful enchanted blade, amplified the emotions and the ideology of the Swordmaster more than it did the other users, and it kind of twisted his view on who is and who isn't an enemy and made him more inclined to kill them. So he took people just by association as enemies that needed to die. And I think that it is possible for sure. I like that explanation is what I'm saying. I like that little theory. There's not much supporting it, but I like it. To give a quick summary of all of the events, if you didn't want to listen to that, you skip to the end, bad, but you're here for the theory. The theory basically goes that the enchanted blades don't just stop at amplifying strength, they also amplify emotions. They amplified Chihiro's hate, Samura's dread and fear. And they also amplified the Swordmaster's desire to kill enemies and uphold justice in his own way. And I think that would explain both how the Swordmaster seems so sane and why Kunishige would entrust such a powerful weapon to someone like that to begin with. I don't know, it's just a theory that I came up with randomly, but that appears to be all the time I have for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So I will see you all later.